Welcome in, much love, Trav here, and we're going to talk about vaccines in the context of game theory and political systems. If you have not yet watched the previous video we made about vaccines are complex, go watch that first. We're not going to have an argument in black and white over are vaccines good or bad. We are going to talk about strategic individual versus societal conflicts in the use of vaccines and how the government should authority for the benefit of this society outrule individual liberty. We're going to have a complex discussion where it's really not clear what to do. Although, here is something that's clear, is when it comes to game theory of vaccines, there's conflicts between the individual and society. That much is obvious, and it's measurable, and this part is true. So we know that vaccines have negative side effects. Say we'll set the arbitrary incidence at 1 in 100,000. Sometimes that 1 in 100,000 can be very severe, although it's rare. Again, 1 in 100,000. So as a disease gets closer and closer and closer to eliminated, we reach a threshold of discontinuation where the pros no longer outweigh the cons because the disease has become so rare that the 1 in 100,000 risk is worse than the 1 in 100,000 risk of getting the disease. However, here's where it gets very interesting and very complex. For a society, the correct discontinuation is basically when the disease hits zero, because diseases resurge, as we see with anti-vaxxers who stop vaxxing, and really to drastic results of diseases resurging, detrimental to themselves, right? However, so we could say that it's correct in general, even when it's 0.0001% for everyone to get vaccinated and take those, 0.1% chance of risk in order to eliminate the disease from society forever, right? However, it's obvious that before that point happens, in the game theory and the strategic interest of the individual, it is no longer correct for the individual to vaccinate. It comes to a point where it is no longer in the interest of the individual to vaccinate while it is still in the interest of society to vaccinate. And that's where this happens, where people are like really, really mad, you baby killers, etc., which is somewhat fair. But if you think about it's just really interesting because it brings in questions of human nature and questions of political systems, because do we expect humans to be selfish and act selfishly? Yes. So this is what we would expect, and we would expect society to shame those individuals for being selfish, right? Which is what we would expect. Right? Like, you can make the individual selfish decision, and in some cases it's not even correct because the actual pros outweigh the cons. But again, there comes a certain point where the selfish decision is going to be made, and it's fair to enforce benefit of the society through shaming. However, does it make sense to enforce it through authoritarian politics that take away the liberty? So, this question is, as we approach this point of individual game theory discontinuation, which is before societal discontinuation of vaccines, should the government enforce vaccination? Or, because obviously there's a conflict with individual liberty there, but it's in the benefit of the society. Unless the government is corrupted and there's business interests, right? This shit is fucking complex, right? So what do you think? What do you think? I think, can we agree that individual game theory optimization discontinuation occurs before societal and that there's a conflict there? I think we can agree on that. I know that's somewhat of a complex notion, but I should draw, I don't know how to draw a graphic on that. So going based on that, do you think that shaming is appropriate? Or would you go even further and make it mandatory and subtract liberty from that? Make people essentially make value sacrifice for society. What do you think? It's complex. Leave a comment below. I'm interested in continuing this discussion. It's fun. You can also Snapchat me your answer at Travis D. Wu. Snapchat. See you in the comments below.